Hello, welcome. My name is Chandra and I am bringing you along today to make a double batch of sourdough cinnamon raisin bagels. I will put the recipe down below and that will just be the regular single batch recipe, but I always double because bagels freeze so well and I usually give half to my sister-in-law. So this time she got cinnamon raisin bagels. So I'm starting by adding 2 cups of water to my mixing bowl, along with a 1/4 cup of honey. You could also use maple syrup. Probably could use sugar as well, but then you need to maybe use a little bit more because there's a difference in sweetness. Here is my starter. My starter is always 100% rye flour. You can use any starter, but that is why my bagels will have a little bit of a fleck of darker color from the rye flour. And I'm using about 1 cup of that. You can see I'm not measuring. I am just scooping out about half of what I had. Now I am going in with 4 teaspoons of salt, or 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. And I'm going to get all of that mixed together. Now this time as I'm making these, I'm kind of wanting to use up some flours. It starts to be too many things to store. So I generally make these with just all-purpose flour, but today I have some white spelt to finish and I have some bread flour that I just want to use up because I don't bother with bread flour too much and it's just another bin that I have to keep in my basement. So to my water mixture I am adding half the amount of flour, so in this case that is 4 cups, and I will mix that for 8 to 10 minutes so the gluten really starts to become developed. And I can, beat that pretty quickly because it's a pretty loose mixture. And while that's going, I am getting 2/3 cup of raisins ready, and I'm making a paste with my cinnamon, which is about equal parts cinnamon and water. So I'm doing 2 tablespoons of cinnamon and 2 tablespoons of water, and then I'll get that mixed up into a paste. Sometimes I need to adjust, add a little more cinnamon or a little more water, and that will be nice and spreadable. Now that this has been mixing for about 8 minutes, I'm going to start adding flour. So I'm kind of getting the rest of this flour in that's on my counter, and I figure I'll wash that container now that it's empty and switch to my dough hook. Now I typically add about half a cup of flour at a time, maybe a little less as it gets towards the end. Sometimes it's good to let the bagels sit for a minute and then see if you think you might be able to get some more flour in there. Because really, I'm just looking for it to be a very stiff dough, as much flour as I can get in, and that should be about the right amount. This second 4 cups approximately of flour is something I never measure. I just pour in enough for it to be a nice dry dough. If it can't absorb any more, it's ready. But this varies depending on the type of flour you use. The weather outside can cause more or less flour to be able to be absorbed. So as long as you're in the vicinity, it is going to be just fine. I am mixing these in the evening, and once I get this cinnamon added in, these will sit on my counter overnight and they'll be perfectly ready in the morning for shaping. It is the next morning and check these out. Oh, beautiful. It's so pillowy and billowy, and I just love dealing with raisin dough. It's just so pleasant to play with. So this is a double recipe, which means it makes 16 bagels. So I'm going to get these shaped first into rounds, and I let all the rounds sit while I shape all of them, and then I go back and press the hole in with my thumb and finger. And that just kind of lets the dough rest a little bit, so it will stretch into a ring a little easier. As I'm shaping these, I'm kind of tucking any raisins or exposed cinnamon under a layer of dough so that the raisins don't burn and it's a little less messy with the cinnamon mixture on the inside. Often I let these rest right on the parchment-lined baking sheet that I'm going to bake them on, but this time I'm just setting them on the counter and covering them with this wet towel so that they can rise, and then I'll be ready to boil and bake. It usually takes an hour or even two, depending on the temperature of the kitchen, how active your starter is, for the bagels to get nice and puffy and risen. So this was about 2 hours, and now I'm getting water to a boil, and I'm adding molasses, which gives a really nice color in the oven, and baking soda, which makes that nice shiny crust that we like on bagels. And then I will add 4 bagels at a time, 30 seconds on a side, and that is less than I used to do. I used to do a minute on a side, but I find my bagels rise higher in the oven with just 1 minute total. So 30 seconds per side in the boiling water. I think that more of the starter within the bagel stays alive to get into the oven and then have its last burst of activity. So I've been getting really good results with doing it this way. So I do 8 bagels to a tray, and these are the trays that I often will just have them do their rise on and then take them off and put them right back on. It's a little easier because I can have it right at the stove. But this is how I did it today. And I'm getting my second tray going, and then these will be ready to go into the oven. A really good indication that the bagels are properly proofed is if they float in the water. If they sink, stop, don't put any more in, let them rise a little bit more. Bagels don't take that long to cook, about half an hour, 15 minutes. Then I rotate and top to bottom the pans, and then 15 more minutes. And then they are golden brown and ready to come out at 400 degrees. Thank you so much for watching, and please let me know if you end up making some cinnamon raisin bagels in your kitchen.